is a Bulldog Radio podcast.
The Ferris State Bulldogs have upset the nation's #2 ranked team. Wide open! Taylor is going to take this one to the house! Touchdown Bulldogs!
It's the MVSP Season 4, Episode 49. One away from that big 5-0, Brandon. We're creeping up on it, but man, do we have a great show for you guys today. It's going to be the Spring Sports Update. We're going to go in-depth with every sport, where they're at so far, next couple weeks in the schedule, what we like about them, what we don't like about them, see what's going to go on for that. But Brandon, it's going to be a good day.
Going to be a great day. Got a great show. Thank you all for tuning in here on this episode. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, whether you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, whatever suits your fancy when it comes to auto listening platforms as well. So you can check out our YouTube channel as well. Some best bits have been dropping as of recently, which you guys have
YouTube's
really
kind of popping off lately.
Yeah, we had a couple of big ones. I know we talked a little bit ago about some things going on, especially in Detroit, in the sports world down there, when it came to our predictions of who would win a championship first, which me and Joe might have had some disagreements there. But yeah, some other great ones. I mean, recently, the last video that dropped was one that was very good. Is outside of the episodes, of course, which have always been bangers. But for sure, I mean, like the All-Star Weekend, I know we talked about a while ago and how it's really been in trouble. I mean, that's really been a debatable topic here. I mean, especially now going into the second half of the season. I mean, we kind of forgot about that, but in a year from now, you're going to have to go right back around to it once again.
Basically, anyone that you choose is going to be a banger.
Absolutely.
Straight up. So you're going to have a good time regardless.
Absolutely. So without further ado, we'll get right into the Ferris Spring Sports preview / review / update / rundown.
A little bit of everything.
Everything in one, because it's cool. But
that's true.
We'll go start here with tennis, the team that was most recently in action at home. Certainly some great matches. I mean, for the men's side especially, I mean, beating Wayne State.
Huge, dude.
Absolutely huge for the program. I mean, that was an absolutely huge win for the men. 4-3 win, taking down a team that was nationally runner-up. I mean, this is the team that finished #2 in the nation last year. And being able to get that win, especially, I know Joe was there and he was talking about to us off air. I mean, huge energy.
High energy.
Especially that fifth pairing to end it. I mean, Alessandro, that whole game was just sounding like an electric factor over there at the Racket Center.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right off the bat, I mean, especially when we were talking to Yannick last week, he said that they wanted to keep the foot on the gas pedal, really wanted to stay in control, and they won the doubles point, so that was a big thing. They had that momentum going through it, but then 1, 2, 3 singles fell. So that was kind of the tough part about it. And then you get into a spot where you got to really rely on, Ben, Alessandra, Sungay, your 4, 5, 6 singles. But they were able to really come in clutch. I mean, Ben, he was playing a really, really tough match. He was pretty much in control the whole way. 6-3, 6-4, I think, for both of those sets that he won. But he was high energy. As soon as he won, he let everybody know, because the Wayne State fans and their players that were on the sidelines, they were letting us know that they were there too. So it was pretty much back and forth, both spectator and player wise. But yeah, that was crazy. I mean, I'm kicking myself because I left right before the 5 and 6, or before Alessandro and Sungay started playing, because I had some prior commitments I had to make it before, which stinks because I wish I stayed, because talking to Coach Dorian, he said that was, the craziest atmosphere that's ever been going on in the Racket Center before, which is very unfortunate for me, but still it was, play the sound.
Yeah,
it's a well needed sound there. But regardless, be able to have that type of success against a team like this with, I'm saying, a lot of people are saying that this is probably going to be a rematch at the GLIAC tournament final. It's going to be 1 versus 2, most likely at the end of it. I mean, this is a really solid way to start out GLIACs, and even better start out with a win.
Absolutely. And I think especially we knew coming in, especially kind of in this Wayne State match in particular, obviously the top pairings were going to be a challenge, right? Cedric Drenth as well as Daniel Gray, 2 of the best in the nation when it comes to singles and doubles for Wayne State. And I mean, obviously didn't quite get the match that we wanted out of those games. Certainly were some really hard fought matches. I mean, Jan took it to only 2-point deficits in each of those sets as well. As Eric gave Cedric as much as he could have handled in that second set as well. But the rest of the guys, I mean, really, really stepped up. I mean, you mentioned Ben, Alessandro, Sungay as well. That depth on the team is what really makes this team that good, because I mean, it's not necessarily one of those teams where you necessarily have a high individual when it comes to Ferris State overall, but the depth that Coach Doran always has year after year, and I think you've seen that especially over the last couple of years, is really been fantastic. Because 1 through 6, I mean, there's not necessarily huge guys standing out. Obviously, we still have one GLIAC Player of the Years right over the past. I mean, Matisse won just in recent memory, but still, I mean, 1 through 6, those guys come to play. And I mean, our number 6 man can be a lot of these other teams' number 3 guys. That's how good this team can be when it comes to their depth. And that's what they showed at Wayne State. And that's how they got to win over a really good team. And I think especially with the men's, I mean, you've seen it overall this season, a lot of good competition they've already played against. I know we went over quite a bit so far this season. I mean, Indianapolis was one that we talked to Yannick about, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out that interview,
what are you doing?
Highly recommend go watch that interview on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you're on. It's in the feed below, his most recent episode.
Pause the episode, go listen to the interview, and come back.
There you go. We'll still be here. I promise. We will be here for a little bit. But I mean, a lot of these other games, especially in Florida as well, St. Leo Rollins as well as Grace from Indiana is a really good team that's ranked as well. So all these teams, they have that prime competition and they use this schedule year after year, and it works because now they've really gone through the thick of it, right? Got Purdue Northwest coming up on Friday as well as Davenport right after on Saturday. Both home, by the way, so you can go over to the Racquet Center and watch some Bulldog tennis. As well as we're going to have some really tough matchups coming up with Grand Valley as well, a team that's probably in that ranking in the top 3 consideration. They're also ranked, I think, on men's and women's side, or maybe at least just men's. I'll have to refresh my memory.
I believe they're ranked on women's side as well.
I think they are too.
I was writing my article. I was checking around the GLIAC rankings. So.
If you don't follow the torch in all of our readings, you should do that as well. I feel like we're just running through the shameless plugs today, but it's certainly
hey. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Final 4 predictions might be coming out. Oh, I just said too much. You might have to grab the paper this week. Anyway, go UConn. Anyway, I mean, this team still has all the depth and to make a big run, especially in the postseason. And it's going to be huge for the team aspect, especially going into GLIACs, and certainly looking forward to seeing that stretch over top because we've dominated a lot of these teams that we should dominate. And that's one of the more things that it really sticks out to me, right? I mean, a Hillsdale team that we hadn't beat at Hillsdale in a long time. Clean sweep 7-0, right? Beat a really good Findlay team. Beat a really good Tiffin team as well. Really good program in the GMAC on the road. Those are big wins, and taking care of business when it matters most is what you need in these tournaments. And it really is one of those things where it is whatever team wins that given day is going to be able to get a momentum swing and make a run moving forward in the postseason.
Yeah, Grand Valley is ranked 32, by the way.
In men's?
In women's.
Oh.
And then men's, I think they're even higher.
I was about to say they should be higher in men's, yeah.
Yeah, because ITA's website is slow. So I just want to put that out there. Because I think we're 50th out of the whole nation, which is
in the women's, yeah.
Yeah, for women's, and then men's we're at 22, which will probably jump up to probably the teens, most likely after this win.
I mean, that's a big win.
Which is huge. But like you're saying about GLIACs, I think this is going to be a pretty solid start to it, especially with looking at the schedule coming up these next few weeks. The Grand Valley one, I feel like it's going to be an interesting one because, I mean, we played them at our place last year. Our place, I know, is one of the faster courts.
Yes.
And, speaking of just kind of with that home court advantage, because I know Davenport and Purdue Northwest, the last time we played them, we still won against them, but it was a little bit closer. But maybe I think having that advantage of being comfortable on our court is going to be a big thing. But I think ending the year on a 3-game road trip is going to be a little bit tougher. But other than that, I think we're going to be pretty solid because I know Lake State struggled a little bit last year during GLIACs. Michigan Tech was one that gave us a surprising run for our money last year, but I think, and they were a really young team. I think their number 1 was a freshman at the time, and there wasn't anybody older than I think a junior, but their junior I think was court number 5 or was their position 5 player. So Michigan Tech's going to have a lot of returning guys who I think is going to make some noise, and then Lake State and Grand Valley. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's certainly going to be a fun test. I mean, especially in the doubles, both teams, considerably with Grand Valley, are very, very good, solid doubles teams. I mean, we obviously have Jan and Ben, our number 1 pairing. Those guys do a heck of a job. They're a really good pair together, as well as Yannick and Eric. Those guys can really make a lot of plays. And then obviously Alessandro, I mean, he's been paired with a couple other guys. I mean, in that Grace game, he did really well with Andrew. So, I mean, Coach Doran's got the depth to make a lot of these teams that good. And we have have some players too that we can throw in at those later pairings that have really unique skill sets to their game as well. Casper is one of them that was, especially in that Grace game in particular, was really good. Necessarily didn't get the outcome that he would have wanted to, but he showed a lot of flair. So there's a lot of depth on this team, especially with the freshman class and obviously the experience to go with it. I mean, this team's really got that makeup to really do some damage this year, and looking forward to seeing how they do, especially on this tough GLIAC slate coming up, because it's not necessarily always by paper, as we've learned, as especially recently when it comes to tournament play. So it's going to be whatever team wins on that given day. And right now, our teams are taking care of business when it comes to the tennis courts, and it's certainly starting to be one of those seasons where you know that something great's going to happen by the end of it.
Yeah. Also, if you're checking our Wild Stat Wednesday, we kind of released a little bit of the rankings too. But
yeah, we did.
Ben and Jan are 31st in the nation when it comes to doubles.
There you go. So
interestingly enough,
that's a pretty good top pairing right there. And individually,
pretty solid.
I want to say both of them are in that consideration as well in top 75s too. So
yeah, the tough part is they had to play Cedric Drent and Daniel Gray. The number one pairing was also ranked number 3.
Correct.
So
yes.
they were a little bit tough situation there.
Yeah. So, but no, this team's going to be really good. And I think they definitely have what it takes to make a real run this year. And that's going to be fun. So moving on over now into the women's side of tennis, recent matchup against Saginaw Valley State didn't quite go exactly how they would have hoped, but on the road at Midland, definitely a little tough environment going over to Saginaw to face the Cards. Not necessarily the result you wanted, but obviously it's a learning experience at the end of the day, right? And this team certainly has really kind of had a really rough stretch of it as of recently. I mean, you looked back, they have not won a match in the month of March yet, which is kind of crazy to think about, but you have to look at it in this scenario too, where 5 of those games, I believe, have come against regionally ranked teams, including Tampa, St. Leo, Rollins, Palm Beach Atlantic, as well as Wayne State recently. All these teams are top 50 ranked. And that's one of the hard things going in. I think we mentioned earlier, Joe, they're a top 50 team. They're right at 50. So they're taking on a lot of these teams that have a lot of the experienced firepower on both sides, singles and doubles, that make them really lethal teams. And especially the ones down in the Southeast that we played with Tampa and some of those other teams like Palm Beach Atlantic. They're used to playing outside too. We hadn't been used to playing outside all year long because we've been in the snow.
And also outside was 20, 30 degrees and dry. And down there is 80, 70, 90 degrees and humid. So it's quite the change.
It is a huge change. So that's something to consider as well. And that takes time to adjust. But Saginaw Valley is a team also that is really good. I mean, I think when they came in at the rankings for tennis overall this year, they came in much higher than expected. And I think they're kind of starting to show why. And I mean, especially right now, I think it might be a little bit of a learning lesson here. I mean, especially seeing yourself kind of down in the standings right now, but that can be a humbling, hungry sensation you can feel now to really get after it over these next couple of weeks. So we've played a lot of these good teams. Like I look at some of the other teams that are ahead of us, like Davenport and Purdue Northwest in the standings. And I think we're a much deeper team. We have a lot better experience of games against some of those teams. So that's something that you can really kind of use as a motivator. And especially now over the next couple of weeks, I mean, right out of the gate, Purdue Northwest and Davenport coming right up this upcoming weekend. So a perfect opportunity to get back on track, put the hammer down and start to get some points and start to get some wins rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially you talk about it. If you look at the standings for the GLIAC Leagues, Michigan Tech, Grand Valley, Davenport, Purdue Northwest make the top 4. Wayne State, they're ranked the highest nationally out of any GLIAC team. They're 13-3 overall, but in conference, they're 1-1. So if you really look at those top 4 teams, we have basically the same record as Tech and Purdue Northwest, minus maybe 1 or 2 games. And if you look at that, I mean, the GLIAC could really be wide open. If Wayne State's already lost to some people in the GLIAC, then it kind of is a little bit refreshing to know that, hey, we might be a little bit slow here, but we got, I think, 5 to 6 more games to really make it up here. Yeah, 5 games. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. We got 5 matches to make it up here, and it's against opponents that are good, but I think we can really make some noise because you got Michigan Tech coming up. We can get a win against them. They're only 6-4 overall. We've played 4 more games, then we've kind of know the game a little bit better of what we're able to play. And then you go to their place, I think we're gonna be in a pretty solid spot because GLIAC right now is pretty wide open despite what the standings say.
Yeah, I think it's going to be certainly a fun sport to watch when it comes to the conference overall. And I'm still trying to find the GLIAC tennis preseason rankings, and I literally cannot find them for some reason. I'm not sure why. But I mean, we'll certainly try to find them and get back to you. But I want to say that I saw Saginaw Valley was a team. I mean, you especially look back at last year, and they were a team that not necessarily finished in the most peak position, but I think they did. I think they did better compared to what they probably would have expected out of that season, because obviously they've been kind of an up and down in recent memory. But I think it's still going to be really interesting to see how our team bounces back, because we have a lot of talented players, and you saw that. You've seen that over the course of early on this year. I mean, this team is really deep, and they have a lot of very, very talented players that can do really well. And I think especially facing off against this higher level competition will make its mark, not necessarily right away, as we've seen over the last couple of games in this skid, but trust the process, right? That growth takes time. So make it a little bit longer down the stretch, and things will start to come around for this team. And I think that will be the case here later on. But still, a lot of great hope with this season. You're not giving up yet. I mean, we're not even barely halfway through this year already. We still got a whole month to go before it's go time. So it's going to be fun. I mean, we have a lot of really good talent up top. I mean, obviously, with a lot of veteran players on this team, Morgan Waller, Sophie DeVito have been there. Obviously, the Hernandez twins have came on and provided a spark as well. Kennedy Dumas as well, Mita Lavidiere. These girls really have a lot what it takes to beat a lot of these good, talented teams here. So I think there's a lot to look forward to this upcoming year. And obviously, we're going to see a little bit of adjustments when you mentioned earlier, Joe. I mean, we're going to be traveling here a little bit later on in the month, but right now we're kind of at home. We can find that groove over this next weekend on the fast court, get back to business, and use that momentum rolling into that little bit of the road test coming up, and hopefully really get some good games together before we really hit postseason play and make the ultimate run like we have done over the last couple of years.
Yeah, man, you weren't wrong. Jeez, got a little voice crack there. Oh boy. I said you weren't wrong, though. I can't find a tennis preseason at all.
I know. I almost want to say I saw
feel
one.
Like they forgot, though. I have not been able to see one, so wild stuff.
That's just sad. I mean, what are we doing here? I mean,
what are we doing, GLIAC? Step your game up.
What are we doing?
Step your game up, GLIAC.
We don't have a preseason poll.
Come on.
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
GLIAC, what are you doing?
I know.
Man?
I literally looked up the other day, and I literally just looked up on the website.
I swore too, yeah.
And I can't even find it.
I thought
we need help. So if you find the GLIAC preseason tennis polls anywhere, shoot them our way at the MBSP.
I'm trying to find it even on the website, and I can't even find it.
I know. That's where I'm looking too. Like, I'm literally scrolling through all of this web browser.
News might be it.
And I cannot find it.
Let's look this bad boy up real quick.
I cannot believe it.
Never mind. It's not even on here. What the heck?
That's what I'm saying. I could have swore I might just be like seeing ghosts, Casper style or something, but I cannot
Somebody at the GLIAC's getting fired. Somebody is.
Oh boy, that's unfortunate.
I will have your job. I will take your job from you and fire you from it. Even though I have no authority to do so.
That would be wild though. But I mean, somebody could be getting canned for that.
Sometimes, side note, you ever go on GLIAC's like Instagram and just look back at like how much stuff we won?
Yeah.
Stuff. And it's like,
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Remember like if you go to those games and all that.
Yeah. It's fun stuff.
And I was scrolling down and I saw the national championship post for football. And I was like, yeah, I remember that.
I remember that as well. That was a fun time. Back in McKinney the first time, and then we got to do it again.
First time was sick. Second time was even cooler.
Yeah. Honestly, the second game was honestly...
I liked the second game better because it was in the afternoon and like it was nice out and I felt like it was just like a better experience.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to that, sorry, we're getting off topic here, but...
Yeah, it's fine. They can deal with it.
I loved the night game. The night game was sweet in that first year, but the second year, it felt like it was a bigger kind of game. Like, cause I
think so too. Cause we weren't expected to make it, especially in the middle of the year. Like nobody thought we were gonna.
It just kind of felt like we enjoyed it more. And then I think the whole thing, I mean, especially like from my perspective, riding the fan buses, obviously Joe had a little bit different experience driving down himself, but like we literally left the field after the game, like an hour after. And I was still scrambling to go from press conference, talking to players because I had media inquiries to do. And then I had to jump on the bus. I remember having to make the bus driver wait like 5 minutes. Thanks to my teammates for not letting the bus leave without me because that would have been bad. But literally, we were on a schedule. We literally went over, got out of the stadium. We went over to Buc-ee's for like getting food and stuff at that gas station. Yeah. And then we went over and kept driving. And I was just
that's the one tough part. Did you guys... Yeah, again, we're kind of getting off topic, but last part about it. Did you guys like pack up before you left for the game so you could leave right from the game, or did you guys go back to the hotel?
Yes, that's exactly what we did. We literally
You guys left from the game
Yes, and went home. Yes, exactly. We were on a schedule. We were 1, 2, 3, 4. We are out of here.
That's the nice part about what it was like the first year, though, is because we won it and we went back to the hotels and we were able to kind of like hang out with everybody, and it was like a big party.
Yeah, it was nice because
that's a good thing about driving yourself. Because Rob was like, "Hey, we're having a team celebration at the hotel." And I was like, "For sure, I'll be there."
Yep, and we couldn't stay for it.
Yeah,
it's just unfortunate. But
2 thumbs down.
2 thumbs down for sure. You didn't feel like we could have enjoyed it as much. So, but it was still a natty. I mean,
got to experience it on the way home.
Not many people can experience 1 natty. We've gotten 2. Almost, well, technically 3. I know I saw the basketball one from
2 in our lifetime.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
there's 2 in our Ferris time.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I watched
that one, the basketball on TV.
Yeah, I watched it in Florida. So I was kind of there, but not there, But anyway, national championships are cool. Hopefully we can see them this year from some of our spring teams as we kind of move forward. Now, we'll go into softball here, a team that's been in action recently. Picked up a big-time sweep against Wayne State this weekend.
Bounce back time right there.
Yeah, huge for the program, as Joe likes to mention.
Sure.
I think it really kind of rings true. Obviously, we use that kind of as a joke for a lot, but I think it really rings true for this one. Because I think when you look at it, this is a really good team that you can start to see the growth already. I mean, I know me and Joe were talking when we were at the Northwood game, which obviously didn't go necessarily our way, but I mean, the team was battling quite through, especially that second game. Obviously got a little out of hand, but Northwood's offense is really, really good.
Northwood's is crazy.
Yeah. So I think when you look at this team in a nutshell, I mean, you look at kind of what we've seen in years past with some of these teams, right? Been able to really put together a lot of good string of games hitting wise, being able to be pretty aggressive when it comes to on the base pads and in the field as well. It's not necessarily been the biggest proponent that has kind of held us back, but I mean, overall, our pitching is our weakest link, and it's tough to say that, but it's really hard when you have to go through so many pitchers per game. I mean, when you are a really good team and you can get into a groove behind one pitcher that can take you 5, 6, almost the whole way, and then you can have a closer come in or even have a complete game from that starter. I mean, that gets you into that groove and that rhythm. I almost said groove there. Maybe we can just use that as a combo word.
Combo.
Yeah,
right
the end of the groove. Of that whole entire game. I just broke Joe, but that's okay.
I wasn't expecting you to do like that depth of voice.
But yeah, I need like a sound effect there. But I think gosh darn it. The thing was, back to my point here, when you can get into that groove of being able to have that ability to kind of roll through with that consistent play defensively, that boosts your offense, right? When you have an inning that doesn't go your way hitting wise, you go down 1, 2, 3, happens, right? It happens all the time. But when you go back out there and wow, we've been lights out. I mean, we haven't given up that many hits. We haven't given up many base runners. We'll go back out, get 3 outs, and let's get back to hitting. That's kind of the mindset you are. But when you are in the opposite kind of situation where you've kind of given up, got shelled a little bit, and that's kind of what happened in the Northwood game, which they adjusted perfectly well against Wayne State, which helped them win that game on the road. That when you go back to hitting, you feel like you have to have pressure to get 4 or 5 runs, or you're going to get dug into a hole, right? You kind of feels like you're playing from the back rather than playing from the front. That's kind of the vibe that they kind of had during that Northwood game, and it went against them. At Wayne State, however, that changed. The team really kind of dug in. They were down early, but they fought back in the early innings because they got that groove. After the 3rd inning in that first game, they were down 3-0. They were in a hole, but then when they got that groove together, got some good defensive innings, they found that groove, and they got 2 runs in the 5th and 2 runs in the 7th to win that game in dramatic fashion. So, I mean, that's something that's really huge when it comes to just being able to get that groove going. And I mean, the base pass has been the biggest story, man. I mean, they had 3 stolen bases in that first game, and then the second game, obviously
they had to do that. They had to get a little bit more
aggressive. Yeah,
a little bit more good. They only had 1.
in the second game, but they still attempted a multiple steals, which has given me a lot of confidence that they feel that they are that fast and they can do some damage on the base pads. So, but I mean, you saw the extra base hits. That was something that was kind of missing in that Northwood game and a little bit earlier on the season. They caught a little bit of that in the second half of Florida trip, which they really used offensively to get that run going. But I think when you look at it, when you get that consistency from the mound, that it really penetrates to your defense and it really kind of lets you get into that groove to get yourself moving forward.
It's gonna be a lot less to deal with, I feel like, for a defense, because like you said, when you have a lot of pitchers switching up, you'll kind of get in a rhythm of, getting your prep step, getting ready for how a pitcher pitches and where they're going to be able to put it. And then once a new one gets in and kind of switches up the game plan a little bit, what they might like to throw, it's going to change up how hitters act. It's going to change up how the defense kind of has to set up, whether they're going to want to play deep, what kind of defensive setups they want to run. But also, I wanted to say, like, especially for a team that just got a new coach, to be able to have this record, I mean, we're near 500 right now, I'm pretty sure. I think only like 3 or 4 games off. Pretty sure, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're not
6 games off. We're 12-18, but to see a team, and especially in conference right now, we're 2-0. To be able to have that kind of jump, especially when you have a brand new coaching staff, brand new, plays you have to run, brand new kind of scheme that a coach puts up, what kind of pitches he wants to play. You're so used to, 2-3 years with Coach Janes last year, and then you get a whole new situation where, he's dealing with a big group. He didn't recruit. It's going to be a little bit different. So to be able to have this success already, I mean, to have 12 wins, usually when there's a new coach that takes over, teams rarely get to double digits. And I already had this now where we're just starting conference, where we're starting to kind of find our groove. It's perfect. And it's also a pretty solid it's a pretty solid pat on the back to say, hey, we're going to be pretty solid despite the start of the year where we were a little bit slow to get it ready, especially during those spring break trips down to Florida and the Music City invite. We're going to be pretty solid now that we're getting to GLIAC, starting a good win against Wayne State. We got Saginaw, and then the big test can be Grand Valley at the start of April.
Yeah, Grand Valley is a good team, national ranked top 10. So obviously that one's going to be circled on the calendar for quite some time.
They play Saginaw in an hour.
Yes, they actually do here on Monday.
11:50
as recording this, so likely when you're listening to the episode, you will be able to follow Ferris State softball online. You go to ferrisstatebulldogs.com.
I thought you found the tennis. I thought you found the tennis preseason. I was like, no way you found it.
No, it's the softball one, unfortunately, but that's okay. I thought we were really close, but softball came in ranked 6. Wayne State was ahead of us.
Big time.
That's an upset. Bing.
That is, yeah.
So I think that's really good to get that momentum rolling. That's a big win to take down a team that
it's huge, man.
Many people thought was going to be higher on the list in us, and then obviously the rankings came out. We were lower on the list, and I know I've talked to a couple of players. They weren't happy about that, and being able to beat a team that was ahead of you. That's the perfect start,
It is.
Use it with these head-to-head matchups. You got Davenport coming up here soon, too, so go do some damage.
Purdue Northwest is coming up as well.
Yeah.
It's tough because we're playing the number 1 and 2 teams in the conference or preseason conferences. So
yeah, but you can still go beat those teams.
A little bit different, but hey, it don't matter.
You can still beat those teams.
It don't matter.
You can still go beat those teams. So
technically right now, we're number 2 in the conference. So
yeah.
Just saying.
I mean, we're only 2 games.
Just saying.
But yes, you're absolutely right. But I think the pitching still has improved this year. Obviously, it's not where we
got some distance to go, but I think we're at a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, Erin Gallagher's been very solid. She's improved her ERA so far this year. Catherine O'Donoghue's been striking out a lot of batters as a freshman. That's something that's really promising in her development, as well as Maury Vinus as well has been a really good pitcher for this team. I believe she leads the team in ERA, as well as Christy Gray's a veteran that always can be put in at any moment as well. But I think the hitting as well has really started to kind of show. I mean, the base paths has definitely been the focal point, obviously, right? With how much they're stealing bases right now. I believe we're at 69 in the season so far, and I think when we did our Wild Stat Wednesday, I think I want to say that the number was somewhere around 50 to 60 on the entire year they had last year, and we're not even we're barely halfway through the season right now. So that is a huge improvement already to see the aggressiveness and be able to see this team starting to really kind of make it happen, will it into existence, and that is something that, as far as an attitude is concerned, is really good for this ball club, and it's well needed.
I think you could really see probably 140 stolen bases this year.
Whoa!
If they get a little, there's a couple games they get really aggressive on the base pass. I mean, they're at near 70, 69 right now. You're gonna be playing a Davenport or what is it? You're playing a Purdue Northwest team who's near the bottom. If if I remember correctly last year, I remember that we had, I think, 2 or 3 stolen bases on him in one game. I mean, if you just keep that up, I think you can really see you can see us at the top of the leaderboard, especially in that stat category, but it's going to be coming down to if we, keep this aggression on the base paths, which we should, because like I said last episode, it's easier to stay in an inning when you don't have somebody on first and a double play is turned. People can't turn double plays against you if you don't have somebody on first, but if you have somebody on second, pretty easy.
That is true.
Pretty simple stuff.
So Joe's giving the green light to any player on Ferris State's roster.
I would say put the afterburners on, get the second, and then you can set up right there.
Okay. So you're saying stretch any single.
Because here's the thing. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you get on as a single, green light to steal.
All the time.
Is what I'm like. Pretty much. It kind of depends on who you're playing as a catcher, but like. One, if you hear as a pitcher, especially in high school when I was when I pitched, if I heard going, almost always a ball, because I wanted to just get it there as fast as I could.
Yeah, you'd pitch out to get your catcher a chance to throw him out.
So that gives the hitter the advantage right off the bat, usually, probably 9 times out of 10, and then you get to a point there where hey, the hitter's up 1-0, we got a runner in scoring position, batters count. So. I'm no baseball or softball genius, but that sounds like a pretty good plan to me. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So Joe is basically...
I'm a savant. I'm a baseball savant.
Savant. What a great word to use. That's fantastic. But I think the hitting has definitely improved too. So we can start to see, I know, especially the aggression that Coach Schumann has already used. I mean, hit and runs are definitely in the play almost any single time anybody's on base. So sometimes that's been unfortunate. I think a couple in the Northwood game, as we mentioned on the last episode, kind of hurt that when, hit a line drive right at somebody on a hit and run, turns into a double play. Your momentum's pretty much just washed away. But you're still seeing some pop in the bats too. I mean, Kylie Winkles has really been a really good hitter this year. I mean, 3 home runs, a lot of extra base hits, 9 I'm counting here on the list so far, as well as batting .290. Caitlin Orm has been doing very well at the dish so far. .325, I believe that's a team leader this year so far. Among starters, I believe Caitlin Gabos is the only one higher at .333 in her 12 plate appearances. So, I mean, that's a really impressive mark. I believe she's slugging .463 right now, which is only second to Winkles. So those are a lot of good numbers. And you're seeing a lot of these freshmen as well, batting over .250 in the .270 range. That is something that is starting to kind of make its way back up and starting to see them on base, especially the speed that a lot of these underclassmen have. That's something that you really want at the dish. And I think hitting really comes in development over the years of experience, right? Because every single level, obviously you're going from high school, you're going from club, AAU, for example, playing club ball. Everything changes when it comes to the way the game's played, obviously. And the college level is no different. So that the hitting will come over time. So being able to really apply those things outside of the hitting will then help propel you to learn, and you'll get back to hitting, and you'll be even better multi-tooled player. That's what we like to see. And that's going to bring this team even better over the next coming years. For sure.
Absolutely.
Big time. Anyway, moving over. Track now. 3 out of 4 we go. Track and field begins this week. We'll actually be airing the next episode, maybe a little bit earlier if you guys notice. That's because by the time you'll hear the next episode, we will be on a bus, or buses, I should say, heading down to Western Kentucky to take part in the Hilltop Relays. Very excited for this one. It was a meet that we went to 2 years ago in our opener down south. But it was certainly a great meet. I think just to get the rust off, there was quite a good amount of competition, not necessarily as big of a meet in comparison to some other ones that we went to, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Obviously, you want to be a part of these really big meets right out of the gate, but it helps you really kind of have that confidence to really get the rust off. And I think that's something that a lot of teams use greatly. So really excited for this one. Obviously, this meet 2 years ago was when I did my first ever steeplechase race. So getting back there, kind of seeing, going to have like a comparison, because likely that'll be what I will be registered in this weekend is steeple. So just being able to see the 2-year progression will be fun.
I will give you $100 if in the race you go on top of the steeple and just jump off and belly flop in the water.
No, I'm not going to.
$200.
Why?
I will give you $300.
I want to run fast, bro.
I will give you $1,000.
Why would you?
Give or take.
$1,000?
Maybe.
Tell me you have $1,000 right now. Lay it on the table.
I don't have it in cash.
Well, then I'm not going to do it then.
Lame.
I got to see it up front.
Lame.
Anyway, I have a shot to run fast this
For the
weekend.
culture, man. Do it for the culture.
I will.
Do it for the boys, man. It'll be funny. You could get on a lot of social media sites. It'll be funny.
That is true. We did. Fun story.
You could.
Fun story last year. Some people remember this from last year's team. I was actually, what were we at? We were at, I believe, Al Owens, or it was the extra meet. It was at Grand Valley.
Yeah.
And it was one of the later meets in the year. I believe it was Al Owens because I did the 5K. I didn't do steeple because I wanted to prep for the tune-up at Davenport to run faster, and I wanted to get one long duration race in before then. And we went and watched the steeplechase because I think Callie Delaney was in it, who was on our team last year, who was a senior doing steeplechase as well. But we watched the men's race afterwards, and there was one guy there. His name was Peter Wilcom, and he was from Cornerstone. He's I believe when we looked it up, we did the research, he's a decathlete for Cornerstone. And so he basically does literally everything, right? You're literally doing 10 events in one span of like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, that's wild.
And you're having these point totals that score in different portions of time and how you place and all that sort of stuff. Obviously throw, jump, run, the definition of literally being multi-tooled athlete, right? And he had entered in the steeplechase because rumor has it, he said he just always wanted to. I believe this was his last year. So he's like, I'm going to do it. And he registered in the steeplechase. So we would watch the steeplechase and none of us had no idea this was happening, right? We knew he was in the race, but we really didn't know I didn't know who he was. I didn't know he was a decathlete that was just trying this for fun, right? We were watching the race kind of progress and, I think I can't remember if he went through like the first one and went with the pack and then kind of backed off, or if he was before that. But every time he came up to the water jump, which in anybody that's been at track and field meets, if you're watching steeplechase, you're at the water jump. Like everybody is there. It is completely crowded out into the lanes just to watch the water jump. And we were down there. And every time he went up, he did something different. So he went up, did a 360 off of it one time and landed it, kept going. There was one time that he didn't even touch the actual barrier, which is like the quote unquote orthodox way to get over, right? You kind of get on top of it, you jump off, you flex your foot over and you push off, right? Because you want to get more length because as a steeple pit goes farther away from you, the shallower it gets, so the less water you're going through. Therefore, the faster you can be. At the very, very nearest edge of the barrier, like almost hip high, shin, like mid thigh high. It is deep in there. Like it is like you're almost swimming out of it. If
they change the water,
what do you mean change the water?
Like they just let the water sit there all the time?
Oh no, they have drains inside of it. No, there's drains in there.
I was gonna say if I'm sitting, I feel like there's no filtration. I bet there's no filtration system in there. So if you put water in there at the start of the year, then you have a meet at the end of the year, it'll be all gooky and
they have gunky. A lot of them have drains put in and they'll just refill it with a garden hose or whatever. But fun fact, I believe there was one race that I saw on the internet. They actually let fish in there while the race was going on.
Oh, really?
I was like, that is the worst thing you could have done to that fish. Anyway, but beside the point, the very last jump, Peter had done all the tricks in the book, 360. He had done a bunch of different tricks. He did like, I can't remember if he was doing like 360s. He was doing like rollovers on the barrier. He was jumping off the barrier, doing like Superman type stuff. The very last one was what everybody wanted. He went on top. He stood there. And I almost want to say that he literally raised his hands up and then he just went and belly flopped right into the deep end. And it was the most hysterical moment. I still have it saved on my phone from that experience.
Pull that bad boy up. Pull that bad boy up. I want to see it.
It was pretty funny. So here, I'll show it here. I'll load it up so Joe can watch, and then I'll continue my rant here about steeplechase. But anyway, steeple is fun, and steeple is a great meet or is a great event.
That's the one thing. Usually, whenever I see like videos like track meets on like just like a meme page or something like that on Instagram or like TikTok or whatever, it's usually that.
It's usually
somebody's doing steeple and they're just like messing around and stuff, which is fun.
Oh yeah,
did he get in trouble for it?
Oh no.
Oh, sick.
I mean, it's his own time to burn. So if he wants to do it, he can do it. I mean, there's no problem with that. I mean, he was already just saying he wanted to try it anyway.
Be on the track team for one match. One
race,
wrong terminology. Put me in steeple. I'll be your pace setter. And then once I fall off, I'm just going to do a bunch of stupid stuff in the pool.
Oh,
I'm just going to chill in the pool.
You're just going to sit there. You're going to get stepped on if you do that. But
sit right at the base.
Yes, that is funny. I'm trying to find it at the moment, but I'm having some troubles here.
Yeah, we'll find it after the show.
We should find it after the show. Back to actually the track preview and not just steeplechase. The meet will be solid. I mean, it's 2-day meet, not a lot of running events the first day, but the second day.
It's relays, right?
Well, it's actually like the whole course of a meet. There's more relays invoked in it. So like there's an extra 4x1 in there. There's the 4x4 in there.
Just solely relays.
No. It's just in the name. So they have a couple other like extra relays in there, and that's probably why but that's a common like meet name is the relays when you just add a couple extra.
If they did like a 4x5,000 meter or something like that.
No.
That would be like an hour-long race.
It would be an hour-long race. That is absolutely like the fastest people in the world would be breaking. Like if you had a legit elite 5K relay with 4 guys to beat 60, that would be incredible. Beat an hour. Anybody else is going to be well over an hour at that point for a lot of teams. I mean, that would be tough, especially the competition because you're running it by yourself.
How many miles is that? Is it like
5K? Like a 4x5K?
Oh, that's 3 miles, right?
Yeah, 3 times 4.
Jeez.
Over 12. Yeah. 12.4. Yeah. Dang. It's a lot. Anyway, but it's going to be a good meet. I think especially we're going to get down there a day early. Be able to kind of train there, get the feel of the land, especially for many people. The 5Kers will obviously have to race that day, but they want to the 5K getting that done the day before the very first day is the best case scenario because the 5K on the 5K on the first day is better than the second day because it's a longer duration race, so you're kind of ready to go from the chute. So, but it's gonna be nice weather. We hope. I knock on wood now because it is gonna be the goal to get down there of being warmer than it is to stay here. But I think it's going to be a good meet, being able to have the debut for a lot of the younger classmen as well that put in a lot of good work, especially in kind of some new events. Obviously, in outdoors, you have the addition of some new events like steeplechase, as well as the 10K, as well as the 100 compared to the 60 and so forth. As well as the throwing events. Obviously, you have hammer throw instead of weight throw now. Then you have discus added as well to it. So there's a lot of new elements. So the first meet's always one that gets to rust off. And doing it in a nice environment, in a warm atmosphere with a lot of good competition is definitely the way to start it up. Then we'll be off to Oakland for a really Oakland's been a pretty solid meet I've seen in years past, and another kind of smaller one, but that really gives you the opportunity to kind of lock in on your event and really get after it against some good local teams. And then it's the big one for those that qualify over to the Bison Invite in Bucknell in Pennsylvania. That's going to be the one that a lot of people have circled already. I know I've circled it, hitting the steeple standard. So that's going to be a huge one. I mean, going to be a fun meet. That one always is. And then obviously finish out in state at Al Owens as well as Davenport, and then Gliac's at Davenport as well in the first week of May. But this team has definitely grown a lot. I mean, especially with all hands on deck. I mean, certainly been getting in the working and training, obviously with Coach Kelsch as well as Coach Levine, getting all the things put into place when it comes to throws, jumps, and all that sort of stuff in every practice and workout. But obviously outside of that too, I mean, shout out to Coach Steedy as well in the weight room. He's been fantastic. I know there's been plenty of coaches and for us conference and media interactions that have said that he's been the top Division II weightlifting coach, or not weightlifting coach, strength and conditioning coach in the nation. And I think he's done a fantastic job. I know for me personally, I've been a lot stronger, really a lot faster, using a lot of those techniques that we've done in weight room and doing all that mobility training and core building and all that stuff. It's definitely helped a bunch. So, and I mean, especially with that, a lot of our team has really put our foot in the ground and being able to do some really good improvements in that area as well. So that's really going to boost us in outdoor. We had a really good indoor season, obviously finished top 5 in the GLIAC, which is one of our best performances in a long time.
Let's go, dude.
I think it was our highest points performance in over 10, 20 years, I want to say it was.
That's right.
Or something like that. And it's been good. I mean, we were looking to get after Parkside a little bit. Not necessarily not ever got the closest there. There it is. But
reach across the table.
I know, a long stretch giraffe arms here, but it's been good. I think it's going to be a really good season. Obviously, the weather is going to be one of the bigger factors now, getting into outdoor as opposed to indoor. But I think with this schedule that we have put together, I think it's going to really provide a really good opportunity for us to get out in the good elements against some good teams, really kind of get that feel back into outdoor for that first meet. And then obviously really hone in at Oakland and be able to really put together some fast times, then pull that over into Bucknell with that huge momentum, and then apply that and fine tweak down the rest until GLIACs. I think that's a good way to put it. So it's going to be a fun year, man. I'm really looking forward to it. Our team's looking forward to it. It's finally racing week, so everybody's excited. Everyone's stoked to get back to work here for the early part of the week, and then we'll set sail for down in the Bluegrass State, and it'll be fun to just see how fast we can run again. It feels like it's been a while. It's been over, I think it's over a month now since we've raced. So I think, actually to this day, it's been over a month.
Month and 5 days.
Yeah, so it is going to be
a month and 5 days by the time you get to the meet.
Yeah, it's going to be a long minute here, so it's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. Track's going to be doing some damage this year.
You're doing solid, man. You're going to kill it, man.
Oh, yeah, everyone's going to kill it. Everybody's been putting in some really good work, and I know I'm a big proponent fan of this show, as I know I'm on the team, but I mean, this team should have a lot more credit than, a lot of people give them credit for, so we put in a lot of good work, and we're really putting the team back on the map, so we look forward to continuing that here this year in outdoor. Finishing off the show here, we're going to golf now. Joe's one of his favorite sports.
I love golf.
Love
to play golf.
Yes, it is back to the outdoor season here, as the weather has been anything but helpful so far by what we've heard overall from this year. Men's side have certainly started off the season pretty solid. Obviously, some good performances earlier on in the fall, and then have really kind of pulled that over here into the spring. A couple 6th place finishes as well, as some really good performances as well back here in the early part of March. But recently, that try match that we previewed last weekend ended up finishing 3rd, a close loss in 2nd to Davenport. Really put up a pretty good fight there in that matchup. Grand Valley ended up taking it all by a couple of strokes. But I think when you looked at it, especially, I think it's definitely one thing to just go into that match and know when you're going to be playing in that West Michigan environment. Obviously, the weather can be a factor, but playing against some really good teams. This is kind of really the tune-up earlier on the season, because you're getting a look at what the top 2 teams in GLIAC are looking like this year, as well as Wayne State, I think, is also in that mix as well. So being able to play them one-on-one and one is a really good just fit to the season to see where you're at, kind of check up, say, hey, what do we need to work on? What do we need to do better? Hey, what are some things we're doing good that we can vitalize, especially going into postseason play later on? And I think they definitely got that lesson there in that try match. But I think when you look at it, this team's still deep, still young. And I think there's a lot of good things we can put forward to this season. Just got to start it off. We're getting that progression over round by round. Just got to start off the shoot red hot. And that's what gets this team going forward into the postseason this year.
Birdies right away is going to be a big thing, especially, in competitive golf anyways, you always want to start off with at least a par or a birdie. And I think the tough part is when you start off a little bit slow, where a couple bogeys spread in there after the first 4 or 5 holes, you haven't found your groove yet. You want to be able to start out ideally with a birdie or with a par, just to be able to make sure that, hey, this course isn't going to be too much for me. I'm going to be able to be solid. I'm already on top of it, and we can go anywhere else but low, or anywhere else but up. It's going to be a big thing. So I think if we just kind of start out hot, like you said, Brandon, that's going to be the big thing. But you also have to, it's West Michigan. It's terrible weather lately. We have some pretty clear days, but there hasn't been a day over 50 in the past 2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a spot where they had to play the Aronson Invitational. Or sorry, no, that was way back in the day, way back in the day.
Yeah, this is back in September there.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at the schedule and got a little bit lost where I was at. But you're looking at SHU Spring Invitational, Panther Invitational, and stuff like that way back in the day. That was kind of a glimpse of what you're going to be able to get now with some of that bad weather. But I think playing golf in the early spring of Michigan is arguably the worst experiences for a golfer, for how bad the weather is and how much it affects your gameplay, because honestly, you're not going to be able to have a solid read on your game, because you're never going to be at a spot where you're going to be able to play 100%, whether it's you're either injured or course just looks terrible, feels terrible. It's too cold to be able to get a solid stroke on the ball. So that's going to be a tough part, but I think especially when April comes around. Hopefully it gets a little bit nicer, and especially they're going to be going down south to the Music City Invitational. So hopefully they kind of find their way a little bit and we'll be pretty solid.
Yeah, a lot of veteran players on this team, obviously, that can really provide a spark, especially when needed throughout this lineup. I mean, especially when you have, really complimenting with Caleb Bond, who's been great as a freshman this year, kind of leading the way for us. But then you got Zach Corner as well as Dan Shattuck, friend of the show. Shout out to Dan as well. Trent Barnes, Shane Buffet have been there, Adam Masdry. A lot of veteran players that have really kind of gotten the feel of this season. So they know that it's a grind in the month of March, getting outside in the snow and the rain and the gross weather, no matter where you're playing at, outside of Florida, obviously. But it's definitely one of those seasons where it kind of goes in waves for you. And it's really kind of dependent on the weather, unfortunately. Much like softball, it's really a different adjustment to how you play the game. Because, obviously, when you got some damp conditions, you got where the ball is not necessarily moving as far, it's not traveling, it's not rolling. Obviously, that changes your game plan up when you're playing conservative on a hole or you're playing aggressive on a hole, just based on lies and how that hole is being played during that month of time, because there's times where maybe you're looking at a shot that you normally play and you're saying, man, with these conditions right now and the way that this ball is lying on the fairway, I don't know if I want to play that shot. And that can play a little hesitancy in your first moment of reaction of what you want to shoot for. So it's definitely an adjustment, but I think the team has really done a great job of adjusting to that so far. Obviously you saw the huge improvement on their last, at the SVSU spring invite down there as well. So I think you saw with that 16 stroke advantage. That's something that really a lot of those top teams necessarily aren't showing as much. But the biggest thing, and I actually found this when I look back at the leaderboard, obviously we finished a little bit down in the standings overall. I believe we were 18th. And I looked at McKendree, who was second. Both teams had 16 stroke improvements from round one to round two. McKendree was 15 strokes higher in round one. That's the difference when you look at it right there. That's the difference, really. We have the improvement. It's just starting off hot. You shave off 6 strokes in that example, or I should say 6 strokes in that opening round, and you keep that improvement. Obviously, that's 12 for those doing the math at home. Don't worry, I got you back. That puts you all the way up into 7th at 602. That's the biggest difference. It's just the start right out of the gate, playing your best golf round one, making those adjustments, improving like you have in round two. Obviously, that's easier to say than do. I know I'm not a scratch golfer myself, and nor even close to that. But for a lot of the talent that we have, we are capable of doing that and putting together a lot of these good scores. So that's just something we got to look forward to trying to do. And we hope it comes through, because I think when that necessarily happens, we're going to do some big damage when it comes later on here in the postseason.
Yeah, that's for sure. But like you said, just make sure that you start off hot is going to be the big thing, because if you're able to have that good first round, that takes a lot of weight off your shoulders. Especially, it takes a lot of weight off of the players at kind of like the lower spots where you're playing, our 5-4-3 spots, because those are kind of the spots where you win it. I feel like, of course, with your 1 and 2 golfers, you want to make sure they play well, because that's going to kind of set the standard and is going to be able to kind of make your score a little bit lower. But if you're able to take a lot of stress off your 3-4-5 golfers, then that's going to be where you're going to be able to make a lot of improvements, because honestly, to me, in a lot of these golf tournaments, the lower golfers on the team are going to be the ones that are going to be winning you it, because if they have situations where they have 10 stroke improvements, 12 stroke improvements, even lower, even single digit one, like 5, 6, 7 stroke improvements, you're going to be in a spot where you're going to add up very, very fast. And that's going to be the one thing that's going to be able to make sure that you're going to have some pretty solid success later on in the season. Thanks you for taking your B-reel out.
Yeah, I forgot to take my B-reel. Joe had already done it, which my hair looks absolutely fantastic.
It looks
right
something
now.
else, man.
I might have to post that on socials. It's bad.
I have to react.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I have to react to the pot, or react to the.
Yeah, I'm literally typing right now. What's going on with my hair? It looks so bad right now, but you can follow me on B-Real if you want to see it later, because I don't know if I want to post that on public platforms. Anyway, golf's going to be doing great this year. Can't wait to see on men's and women's side, obviously, especially with the women as well. They've been playing very well as of recently. Maybe not necessarily the best finishes that we've seen, but they're starting to improve. Obviously, a couple 6th place finishes against some good teams, especially at the Findlay Spring Invite, which they just completed here earlier. Beating Grand Valley is a team that's also in the GLIAC as well. as some other teams like Saginaw, Northern Michigan, Davenport, also way down the list. This team played really well, and they've been led this year, especially by Elena Eldred, as well as a lot of those senior players that not necessarily number 2, number 3 in our list, like Joe was mentioning, the 4 and the 5s, right? Abby Gravel was our number 5 golfer coming in. She was second, right? The second highest score. That's the things that you need for this team to really go. That depth really pushing you up. And when you have 5 in the top 40 overall individually, top 50, that's going to get you really good results over on in the season because there's a lot of teams out there. I mean, Grand Valley was a team that didn't necessarily have that depth, and that's the team we beat. So that's what the difference is. You have that depth is the biggest difference because you can have really good individual golfers, but if you don't have that depth behind you like these teams do, that's going to really prohibit you with your postseason success. So it's going to be a really fun season. I can't wait to see everybody improve their games overall, especially over the year, especially getting a golfer in here on the episode certainly is on our agenda. Maybe even a couple coaches as well from the spring sports will be coming in here shortly. So can't wait for you. So you can subscribe to that as well as just getting outside is what I'm excited about in spring. I did get a chance, Joe. I know we talked about it last episode. I did get my disc golf round in yesterday, and it was supposed to rain.
Ew.
Didn't even rain. It was beautiful outside. I got to say, I did start the round off really well. 2 straight birds.
Hey, nice.
And dropped a double.
Yeah, that's how you should.
Yeah, not great. But anyway, still improved. I didn't have a better score than I did last year by 4 strokes, 3 strokes,
Nice.
one of the 2. So we're on the right track here.
Usually that happens. I went to the simulator and was bombing them.
Where do you really? Damn,
Yeah,
I
it's
got to
playing
get over to the
well.
simulator one of these times. I still have not done it yet.
I'm not gonna lie, the simulator though, like
It's a little pricey.
I was just gonna say I just don't like going to the simulator though because like I feel like it doesn't give me like actual feedback on like how my shot shape is because like I've gone to the range and I've gone to the simulator like pretty close to each other like in succession, like right when the range opens I'll go on the first day usually or something like that, and like my shots like they're not like crazy wicked slices, but they're not like as straight as they look on the simulator. So the simulator kind of gives you false hope a little bit on where it is.
Yeah, that is something because you can't really recreate shot shapes to the perfect extent because obviously it's going reaction off of where that ball is hit. Obviously, it's registering the number.
It is track
spin.
So,
but yeah, so it's not going to be perfect, and it's going to give you an ideal, but it's not going to be the full extent, right? Because if you slice the heck out of the golf ball, it's gonna
be like a power fade, basically.
Yeah, it's gonna bring that spin involved in the calculations to obviously give it that arc. But is it gonna have that nasty tail like you can have, especially when you have elements in the wind? Like if you slice a ball into the wind, you just see you later. It's OB for sure, right? So it's not gonna necessarily bring you that kind of data. But
always interesting.
Yeah, but it's certainly a cool invention. I'd love to get on the track, man, and play a simulator round one day. I actually had some friends that I met the other day that were over at the simulator actually yesterday over and met them at B-Dubs. Yeah, shout out to the Morrison bros, two of my closest friends from high school. Were over at B-Dubs, and they said they just came from the simulator. I was pretty jealous. So I got to get out there one of these times. Maybe we'll have an MSP live stream simulator battle. I was doing crush me though.
I was doing the I was doing like long drive. Like I did like the regular stuff and I did long drive and I smoked one like 310 and that one felt good. And then I was averaging like 280. I was in like 260 carry though, so that was pretty good.
That is pretty solid. I think the furthest carry I've ever gotten was 275. 280. It was somewhere in there. It was a really good ball though.
I was averaging like, I think not to brag or nothing, obviously, but I think I was averaging like 156 ball speed, 157.
I actually never measured my ball speed, so I don't know.
And I went to Top Golf once and I was just like, oh, dang.
Oh, yeah.
Like I was like trying to hit it really hard and I got like 162. I was just like throwing my back out almost.
I did hit it so hard one time it didn't register. So I might have broke the speedometer.
Okay.
I think I broke the speedometer. Right. No, I actually enjoy, I know we're kind of riding this episode low. So we'll finish up here in a minute. But the games that you can play when it comes to accuracy are super, super just enticing. Because you're like, I want to pinpoint on this hole, but there's no way that those are actually the amount of distance when you're looking up from the deck. You know what I mean? Like when you see one of those, like obviously you have like I think the longest, the white target out there is like what, 250 or 230.
So yeah, 250
something like that. So. But when
there's the back, like in the middle, there's like 12 little bins on the net.
Yeah, yeah.
Those I think are 270.
Yeah, something like that. But are those the same numbers on the deck on the next level as the ground?
I think
because if you're heading off of
level,
because if it's off of ground level, but it's the same rate straight up on each deck, that's different because obviously you're hitting from an upward position.
Distances of targets.
We're getting scientific here. This is fantastic stuff.
Golf. Close range about 30 to 50 up to 200 yards with increments between the longer targets are obviously hard to hit, and you get rewarded by scoring in those areas.
That's pretty crazy. You were waiting for me to use that one. That is interesting though.
We've been having that. We've had that sound for a while. We never use it.
I know. It was it was actually a recommendation by one of the fellow listeners. So I guess you can recommend sound effects to us as well. You got to follow us first.
If you hit a top flight golf ball like fast, a regular golf ball you're gonna hit even farther, faster.
Wait, top golf
golf ball.
Oh, you said top flight.
I was like, well, of course, all the time.
Top flight's not the best brand of golf balls. That makes sense. But no,
Callaway Chrome Soft in there compared to a top golf ball. You're smoking those bad boys. I don't feel like spending $27-$30 for a pack of 12 though.
Yeah, I do like Chrome Softs, and I mean, I know there's a lot of hype behind. Obviously,
I play the Super Softs usually.
Super Softs.
I can usually make those last a good amount.
I like the Chrome Softs. I'm not the guy though that goes out and buys. I'm not out there getting Crow V1X and buying a whole pack of 12 of them.
Side note again. Sorry. When I was down in Florida, I lived like right next to a really expensive country club. Where the public would have to pay like $300 to play. Yeah. I bought a ball finder or a ball grabber because I was right on the side of like a par 5 and a par 3. Yeah. Like around that went around a lake. And so when I got bored after a weekend, like I'd wait for like a weekend to go by and then I'd go and just grab the ball grabber and go grab, like I found like 60 balls, probably 80% of them were Pro V1s, probably 1Xs and like Callaways and stuff.
That's crazy.
I'm telling you, that was the greatest day of my life when I bought that thing. It was $40, but it was well spent because
you got back $80 in golf balls.
Yeah, I got back like $80 in golf balls. So it was well worth the investment.
Yeah, I've just been the one that treasures through the woods, pick the briars on the way through, but it's worth the golf ball.
I do that as well, but then there's one time where I saw like a venomous snake down in Florida. I was like, I probably shouldn't do that.
Ooh, scary. No thanks. Anyway, have fun in the spring, y'all. Go out and support the dogs in track and field, softball, golf, and tennis, as well as spring football. Also coming up.
That's coming up.
April 26th, right? Spring game?
Yes, sir.
Spring game. Be there. Defending back-to-back natty champs will be on display at Top Taggart Field. You can find that information on all of the FerrisStateBulldog.com website information. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we've rambled long enough. Thanks for tuning in. We got to get out of here. Brandon Wirt, Joe Nagy. Make sure you subscribe at the MBSP. And until next time.
Take care, everybody.